My name is Barrett Ragsdale, and this is Miss Kim Prater. She is our reading coach and instructional specialist here at Cherokee County Schools. And today I'm going to be asking a few questions concerning curriculum and technology. So, first question says, how do you integrate curriculum both horizontally and vertically aligned that engages all students?
Well, the first way you need to look at your standards, know your standards, but you got to know your students. You got to know their level. Do you need to differentiate for certain students, especially social science and reading? You can look at those STAR reading scores and say, hey, are these students struggling with our history, our social science program? You can go in and change their readability, the level that they can read on their Chromebook. You can change their reading level. So that if they change their reading level, they still get the same content, but more on a level they can understand. And you can look at those anchor standards and how do I pull in anchor standards for literature and through my social studies. What does that cover in there? And to engage them, you got to give them something that they can work at, that they like. They don't all like everything, but if you give them something that they feel like they're a part of, if it's project-based learning, if it's research with everything that we have, those things keep them engaged and makes it. Some you're going to have to give them more challenging things. Your students that are very high academically, any kind of research, any kind of project-based, you can differentiate that to be on different levels.
So you talk about changing the readability on the Chromebook. Is that on certain programs?
It's our certain companies. I know our science and our social studies companies that we've purchased those textbooks from. You can go on there and, like, if you're a 10th grade, if you're
like Connect Ed on the textbook. Okay.
Yes, and if you go in there and they're a 10th grade, they can pull up what's on their textbook. They have a digital textbook, and so you can just go to that student and say, okay, this student needs to be a 7th grade level. They're a 10th grader, but they're reading on a 7th grade level. You can change their readability on that digital textbook.
So many people use that in the county? Do a lot of people use that digital textbook?
You see it more in middle school. I'm going to say 6th, 7th, because in 5th, 6th, 7th, you have more that are like at 2nd or 3rd grade level, which really makes social studies difficult.
Yeah. And
so they can bring it down to where they're getting the same content, but more that they can read on their own without assistance.
Okay. So that's question one. So question two deals with how do you lead and motivate teachers to adhere to state standards?
I think the biggest way is you've got to give teachers the materials they need, but good PD, they need to go visit other schools that have very innovative teachers that do exciting things in their classroom, or summer PD where they're going and they're learning ways to integrate, do more project-based learning. I know some of ours went to the Ron Clark, and where they're very motivated, where they're showing you different strategies to use in the classroom, different ways to motivate your students. Teachers need to be motivated for students to be motivated. And so teachers need to know, teachers need to be appreciated. They need to know that they're appreciated, the hard work that they put into it is appreciated, but that they need to be comfortable what they're doing, and a good work environment. All those things, I think, help a teacher be motivated.
And one thing I talked to Ms. Stewart about, we've been implementing to some extent here our PLCs, and with her being talking about small schools here in the county, sometimes hard for you to group PLCs in one school.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we also live we teach in a close-knit community as far as countywide. So it's not, you think it's important to establish a good PLC countywide?
Yes.
Like history teachers in 6th grade,
Yes.
math teachers.
Yes, and that was what we did this summer. We met as a system with history teachers, grade level, elementary. We did grade level meetings because they teach all the same subjects. But then we did, as we got in those higher subjects, we had those meet together, and it's really sometimes you learn a lot just from other people that do the same thing you do.
Yeah.
And like she said, it's hard for us to have a PLC. I've been reading a book, and it's called PLC for Singletons, and it's talking about our schools. When you have one teacher that teaches that subject, so they don't have somebody to go and say, hey, this isn't working for me, what can I do? And it talks about ways to do vertical planning, with, even if you say you're teaching Civil War or something, go talk to that 6th grade teacher or that 5th grade teacher that actually teaches Civil War. Hey, have you got any good ideas? But if we can set up a good network through the county, and you have resources through the county, because everybody has something they feel like, I didn't teach that very well today. That just was not a good lesson. And if you got somebody to say, hey, what'd you do with that? How did you teach that? It kind of gives you a little bit more confidence and, hey, some more resources.
Right. So the third question, how do you monitor and assess instructional programs and activities and materials?
Well, obviously you have your standardized test, your Scantron, your STAR. We're always looking at those. Every time we test, we look at how are we doing, are we benchmarking, but our teachers need to look at their test, their 9-week test, that kind of stuff, and say, hey, did we master this? How many kids didn't master it? Can I go back and do I need to go back and reteach so they can master what this is?
And something else, Scantron, we went to statewide, we went to Scantron. How do you compare, because we're one of the few schools that still use STAR in that. How do you think, what you've seen so far, how they compare and what we're trying to do here?
STAR, we get a little higher benchmark percentage in STAR than we do Scantron, based on the benchmark percentages from Scantron. I think we're just not, I think we need to look more at standards. Are we mastering the standards in just each classroom? Is each classroom mastering those standards? And if you look at your standards and you look at a master and okay, everybody's mastered this standard, so we move on, then I think we're going to see scores go up.
And here's a big question. How do you feel that the infusion of technology has impacted your job as a curriculum specialist?
Well, we tried to train teachers on how to use Chromebooks and different programs that they can use to engage their students, the Nearpods and the S'mores and the Haikus and Google Classroom and the way to put lessons online. But, nothing takes it away from the teacher, but that Chromebook should be able to enhance your classes. It should be able to give a beginning and an end, and students should be able to go work on their own through research or project-based learning and come up with all the information they need in between. And if we're using our technology like we should, they should be getting the rigor. That's where you really get rigor, is if you're having them, you give them a start and they're researching to find, or they're doing a project to find and create something new. That's those DOK levels. That's that higher DOK level of learning.
And implementing technology. Of course, you hear the negative things about your teachers talk about negative things of technology, but I think positives outweigh negatives way more. And you feel that?
Yeah, they do. And you're always going to have something, but if it wasn't technology, if they're the negative part, well, they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. They're on a site they shouldn't be on. You're gonna have the same thing in the classroom if you got textbooks. Well, they're reading their library book. They're not doing what they're supposed to. It's the same thing. It's just in a different form.
Right. So it's got to monitor it and use it correctly as a teacher.
You got to monitor it, and you just got to find a good balance. You still got to teach. Teacher can't. That Chromebook, those computers can't replace that teacher, but you can have a good balance that really enhances the student's learning.
So one more question in closing here. Your position, what's the greatest difficulty that you have in your position, maybe in terms of getting teachers to try new things or just implement curriculum strategies?
Well, we're getting teachers trying to think. Teachers are creatures of habit. They like what they've always done. And some are very hesitant to try something new because they're afraid they're going to fail at it. Teachers never want to fail. They're teachers because they want to make perfect, they want to be the best, but yet they're also hesitant to try something new because they're creatures of habit. And I think that's the biggest thing, is for them to step out and do something out of their comfort zone, get them out of their comfort zone and try new technology, new programs, new ways of, seating or whatever, new management tools. That's a challenge. But also with curriculum is getting them to under the mindset of, hey, we've got to look at our standards. Don't really worry. I know the state test is a huge factor, but make sure you're teaching your standards. And it's hard to go back. We do RTI for, if you're below 25th percentile on STAR or whatever, and we put you in Tier 2. But Tier 2 really needs to be every day, every student. If you gave a test today, and I don't care if they're the top student in your class, and they didn't master two standards that you tested them on, then they needed Tier 2 intervention. They need intervention right there so they can master that standard. And so your mastery that's the way you take care of the state testing, is that you make sure the standards are mastered. Whenever, every time you teach them, whatever standards you're teaching, you make sure they're mastered.
All right. Well, that's been Miss Kim Prater. She's our instructional specialist here at Spring Garden, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.